Hello there, folks. Welcome to the 2014 Chicago Vintage and Custom Drum Show. Jim Messina is my name, and I'm here with Dave Brown all the way from England. How you doing, Dave?
I'm good, Jim. How are you?
Dave, you got to do a little something here. What is this? Ha! What's going on?
Everything's good. 1920s, 30s, Ludwig trap table with matching temple blocks.
I've seen these. In fact, I do own some with some of my older sets, but this particular set looks very clean. Look at these.
It is very clean.
These temple blocks.
What I'd like to talk about today is a subject that isn't really discussed very much. We talk about drums every year and this model or that model, but not very much is talked about the accessories and the blocks and the trap trays and the mounting points and the bars and how things actually go together. Because when you don't know about him, everything it sort of baffles you, you know?
I see.
And there are more than one way of mounting the blocks on the actual arms. There's this method that we see here, that this front arm splits in two, and there are 3 posts on one side and 2 posts on the other side. The blocks will only mount on this arm one way, because the gap between this post and the next post will only accept the large temple block.
I see.
And
so
on the other end, it will only accept the small one.
They're spaced just properly,
and why is
I
that?
see.
Because melody-wise, when you look at a piano, the bass end is always down the left-hand side. The treble is also on the right-hand side. That's exactly as you would play it, so you got the treble and the bass.
Let me ask you, are all these blocks tuned the same? If you had 2 different sets, would they be tuned exactly the same?
No, they should be an interval of a third in between each block.
I see.
And if you look at the Slingerland catalogue, and there was an interesting little quote, and it says, "Due to inferior Oriental workmanship, we cannot guarantee perfect intervals between each block." So
there's a disclaimer for
exactly,
you.
Exactly. It isn't our fault. That's basically what they're saying.
Now, before we get into more of the actual physical aspects of this trap table and these blocks, the history of these Oriental blocks goes way back. I mean, how did they end up here? I mean, this block says Ludwig on it. It actually has a Ludwig decal on it.
Every one of those blocks in this set
they all have the same decal,
which is pretty rare.
Isn't that interesting?
I've seen one, and I've seen maybe 1 or 2 over the years, but I've never seen a complete set of 5 with every single Ludwig decal.
I have seen Leedy sets, but that's about it. Ludwig and Leedy, I think, are the only ones I've seen. I don't recall ever seeing like Gretsch decals.
I've never seen a Slingerland decal on blocks, not at all. Not at all.
So these came from the Orient, is that it?
Originally, the blocks, I don't know where the original things came from. Obviously from either China or Japan, and I'd love to know if anybody out there can tell us a little bit more information. Then
I've always understood them to be kind of ceremonial blocks, along with the dragon drums you see, the tacked heads. Chinese toms. But let's talk a little more now about the trap table itself. The condition here, I don't know if you can see this, folks, but it's felt and it's original. This is original felt, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
This needs to be refelted, and I'll do that once I get it back to my workshop. This will be absolutely cleaned up and look absolutely immaculate and brand new when I finish with it. All the felt will be completely stripped off. All the hardware that mounts underneath, you can't get off without taking the felt off, because there's 2 screws.
I see, there are screws here, yes.
Underneath that you've got to undo to then take the hardware off. The hardware will then be polished and cleaned, put back on. The felt will be taken off and new felt put on. All the timber around the outsides will be sanded down, repainted, and there's also a Ludwig badge on the front of this particular trap table.
Now I'm seeing this paint. Was this gold paint?
I think it was gold paint, yeah. Yeah, as far as we can tell, that it looks original to me. I don't know anybody else that's got an absolutely mint version, so we can compare the two.
Well, I do see, that you do own on your famous sea green set, which is this has always amazed me, the matching sea green pearl on that that's around the side of the table here.
Yeah.
You don't see that, folks. The closest thing I've seen to that is I believe there was a marble kind of covered one. I think Mark Cooper bought
Cooper's
one like
got
that.
one of those, yeah.
But your sea green set that has a trap table like this with that matching,
matching
it's
sea
like
green.
inlay. It's just you don't find that.
Well, the amount of people that have, green with envy, pardon the
Yes.
pun, when they actually see that thing, and because like Jim said, to see the green set is pretty hard, and to see a green set with a matching trap table, it's like, come on, it's virtually impossible. It just doesn't happen. And I've had several people that would love to get that table from me, but unfortunately, for the moment, it stays in my collection.
That's got to stay with the set. Now I'm seeing other holes here, Dave. Look, we've got the temple blocks mounted on this bar, and it seems to be supported by these cymbal arms, right?
Well, the two arms that come through, they actually hold the bar. Those then are fixed to the table by a wing nut underneath. Without those arms, this bar can't mount to the table.
I see. And I see two other holes right here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. What's the purpose there?
Well, they're also for other accessory arms, such as
see.
this.
So they would go. It goes this way. All right.
Arm goes that way.
I
and
see.
Screws on, and you can mount a cymbal from here. Or you can mount another accessory. Maybe you can put a cowbell on it.
Yes.
Or a cowbell holder.
And they would swivel.
Or a Chinese tom-tom, and you can move them to wherever you like, and you can have short ones, long ones, all
see.
interchangeable.
Now the condition that I'm seeing here, what was this, nickel plating?
I think it was nickel plated, yeah. And when I get it home, then we'll once I clean all the gunge off, we'll find out if it's nickel or chrome.
What's your standard method for? Because I run across stuff like this where that's oxidized. Yet up here you do have some remnant of the nickel. But what's your procedure for cleaning this really black, actually oxidized?
What I've found is with all the Ludwig and Ludwig early plating, it's really, really very good. You think something is, past its sell-by date, for want of a better expression. But when you get that on the buffing wheel and you clean that up, it really, really just pops out. And it may take 2 or 3 hours to get rid of this muck off there, but eventually it will come off. And as long as the plating is okay underneath and you've not really any bad rust on it, then it will come up fine.
Now, see, a lot of people would take this and they would wire wheel it down to bare metal, and there goes your plating.
Exactly. Just be careful with it, like Jimmy has a buffing wheel. I've also got a buffing wheel.
Yes.
And you've got to be careful because too much can do a little bit of damage. So you've just got to be careful and slowly look at it, buff it, look at it, buff it. And eventually it will come to life, and then it's like a different animal altogether.
You really don't see too many of these now. I remember, 6, 7 years ago, on eBay, they would pop up regularly, but these are becoming more and more scarce.
They are pretty scarce.
And so is the hardware that comes with them. From what I understand, this little piece, what do we have here?
Well, originally on the top of these, because they aren't threaded, there used to be like a rubber foot that would go on top, and it was sort of mushroom shaped. And on top of that mushroom shape, there was a nipple. And your cymbal would just literally push onto the rubber and sit on the mushroom. But obviously those things deteriorate over 60, 70, 80 years plus, and they get lost. So what I've come up with is, if you want to mount your cymbal.
I see.
So
that I haven't seen yet. Now, I've seen, what you said before, the little wooden push-on types, but I've never seen this. This is totally adaptable.
Well,
That's great.
I do think that this is slightly later than the actual arms itself, but because I don't have any of the rubber pieces that should fit on there, I've got to put something on there to then mount a cymbal from it.
Now, you've got the set that goes on your sea green Slingerland set. You've got the trap table and the temple blocks. Is this the only one you ever had? The other set that exists for you?
I've got another trap table for my other Slingerland sea green set, but that table doesn't have the sea green pearl edging around the table, but it mounts differently. Instead of having 2 arms and 1 bar, it has 5 individual posts. Jimmy will obviously show everybody.
And I see there are holes in the front here that almost looks like it's made to accept.
Exactly.
So it just depends on which version you have, I guess.
Depends which version you have. You could mount it either this way, you could mount it with 5 individual posts and 5 individual clamps with a block attached to each clamp. You could also mount it with 2 of these, and instead of this type of arm, a block on a clamp, and all those blocks and clamps mount to 1 bar. That bar then fits to each one of these arms with a U-clamp, like a cowbell clamp.
Yes.
So there's the 3 different variations. If anybody knows of any others, please get in touch.
Oh, yeah. Now, from what I understand, this past year, you've been kind of hunting down traps in general.
I have, yeah.
What are some of the things you've been locating? I know some of the things were... what were they, sound effects or?
Sound effects. I managed to get a Ludwig and Ludwig duck call, an early 20s one. I also managed to get a dog bark and 2 bird whistles.
I see. You know, I'll bet some of those were featured in the show that Bill Ludwig Jr. used to do
last year.
Right?
Yeah.
So what is your goal with that? Are you trying to get as many of those as you can?
I'd like to get as many as I can because not very many people collect them, and I think if no one collects them and someone finds them, they don't know what they are, just throw them in the trash. You know, eventually there are going to be no more traps left.
Yeah, so you have to. Somebody's got to collect these things now. It's funny. We're talking about something from what, the 1920s?
1920s. Yeah.
When did these go out? When did they start? When did you stop seeing these?
They weren't in the late 40s. As soon as tunable tom-toms came out in sort of 36, they weren't the fashionable thing of the day. Slingerland and Ludwig did produce them, but obviously they were in the decline. Once people found out that the silent movies stopped, the drummer didn't need to have as many effects. Therefore, he didn't need blocks, he didn't need wood blocks, cowbells, and that type of thing. And the music scene in general changed because big bands were coming in, different music thing altogether.
So by the time Krupa came around, he wouldn't be caught dead using a trap table, right?
Maybe not, but, you know, he probably had one.
Yeah. Now, I got to tell you, folks, from my angle here, the blocks that I've seen, the temple blocks that I've seen, they're always chewed up from being used, and I don't see any evidence of that whatsoever on this set. So this would be this would be considered a very good set of temple blocks as far as condition from what I see, because I've seen some pretty bad ones. I have some pretty bad ones, but this is phenomenal, Dave, and I really thank you for bringing this in. We're going to be talking with Dave a lot more during this show. Every year we get together with Dave, we look forward to seeing you here. You kind of co-host this whole show with me, but we're doing things a little different this year. We're here at the Rebeats Cafe, and it's Vintage Drums Talk. We're talking all vintage to all the vintage guys around. Look forward to Dave Brown, myself. We're going to have Mike Corrado, a lot of other vintage greats here today at the Rebeats Cafe for the 2014 Vintage and Custom Chicago Drum Show.